let's go ahead and do a mold shell. This is how I've been doing them recently. I'll do two versions, process basically the same. So I have my weird little help up in here. And the first thing that I need, and this is not necessarily related to the mold shell, but I need a base to glue this on. So what I have been doing is just taking these like random little bottom faces, and I'm gonna just grab everything else and delete it. That'll give me a perfect representation of the bottom of this model, which I will then extrude to, you know, a specific thickness. So, yeah, this is not necessarily so much about the process. This is more just sort of showing you how I've been making mold boxes, and then the actual mold box itself I will go into more detail with. Okay, so what I need now is a version of this I can extrude outwards, hopefully without it exploding and just, you know, crushing into itself. So I'll just merge some of these vertices so I have something a little bit more manageable to work with. Which I will then, like I said, extrude outwards to kind of a random thickness that I think might be, you know, appropriate. I kind of like a little bit more of a base on my stuff, on my molds, so I'm going to do something like this. And then I will just shift this little thing down negative 0.24 inches, and then this should give me the stuff for the base. So this is going to be my base. It's going to print like a little teeny lip, so I have something to line it up with on the original model. And then that should be, you know, all good and stuff there. So I'm going to group this and call this base, and I'll use some of those pieces later, but for now I don't need them. Alright, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is duplicate this model again, just really quick, run a mesh reduce on this. I don't usually do this in... I don't usually do this in Maya because either it doesn't work... Yeah, okay, cool. We're just going to go ahead and extrude this thing. And this is going to be basically extruded at whatever thickness I want my mold to be. So I'm going to say I've been doing like 3.5 millimeters for me, and that's been working fairly well. So with all of this selected, love of sanity, oh my god, stop trying to smooth things. I keep hitting all the wrong buttons because it's cold. My fingers may or may not be kind of numb. Okay. With this selected, Maya's going to be disgustingly laggy. And basically what I need to do is reverse my selection if it decides to stop lagging. And this is Maya 2020, because for some reason 22 crashes like every time I look at it. So, you know, went back to using this one. Alright, this is going to take... What is happening here? Alright, we're going to do something a little different because Maya is now on fire. So I'm going to just go into ZBrush and make a new version of my model to start with. So I'm going to find my model, which I'm just doing on the other screen because, I don't know, it kind of weirds me out when people just like see all the files on my computer. Like, not that there's anything interesting there, it's just weird to me. Also, I might have one or two secret projects in here, so trying to not have y'all be looking at all that stuff. Alright, so I have my model. I'm just going to drag that into ZBrush. And again, this is not... Oh my god. This is not so much a tutorial on how to use these softwares, it's just sort of the process that I go through. So, since apparently this is too high poly to do anything useful with in Maya, I'm going to reduce it and then bring it back into Maya and then extrude it, and it's going to be a whole gosh darn thing. Anyway, the rage. The rage is real. Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and export this. This is probably gonna have some weird issues, and I'm just gonna put this on my desktop and call it hell puff temp. Puff temp. Because I have to import and export a bunch of... Oh, god, it did crash. Shoot. Hang on. Alright, so Maya's now back up and running. I'm actually just going to delete this. I was really only using that for a visual representation of size. So what I'm going to do is just drag my lower poly version into Maya, duplicate this the same way I did before, and extrude this, and hopefully Maya's not going to get set on fire. So like I said, 3.5 millimeters is how thick I like my molds. And we just need... Oh, 3.5. I keep trying to use like buttons, and then it's entering new numbers. Alright, so... in Maya, it's going to select the outer shell and leave an inner shell, so I'm just going to reverse that selection. And now we have the sort of inside thickness of our mesh. Now, when I make these molds, I usually have been making the whole outside Booleaning that together, making the whole inside, Booleaning that together, and then cutting the inside out of the outside. So I need another version of this, which is going to be extruded the thickness of my mold shell, which I've been doing 2.4 millimeters. I find that works nicely for me with my 0.6 nozzle that I use. So now that we have these disgusting crunchy messes, I'm actually going to get rid of that one. I'm going to take this one. We need to fix all of this clipping geometry because this will cause issues later. So I'm just going to export that again as my weird like hell puffin temp file. Hell puffin temp. Yes, I would like to replace it. I'm going to go back into ZBrush, and I use ZBrush because it's quick and I've found it to be the easiest thing to use. And I'm going to import that weird temp file that I just overwrote again. I'm going to go into my geometry tab, and I am going to dynamesh that. It's going to basically get rid of all those janky-ass mesh errors. And then I'm going to go to Z-plugin, and I'm going to decimate current. Again, there's a lot of repetitiveness to this. It's also very annoying to do this, and I've been doing this, like, all morning, and it sucks. So, hell puffin temp, we're going to overwrite the file again. I'm going to delete this, because it's crunchy and horrible, and nobody likes it. Alright, we're going to go to my desktop, and then grab this hell puffin temp. That looks so much less terrible. Duplicate it again, extrude it. This is, once again, the thickness of my mold shell. I'm just redoing the exact same thing that I did before because I'm a goober. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and delete the inside the same way I did before. And this actually doesn't seem to be too bad with clipping geometry. Nope, it is. There's a lot of it in the center. So we're gonna go through and do the same thing again, where I export the hell puffin temp file. For the love of goodness. I did say it was repetitive. I slowly lose my sanity while I do this. It's really fun. Mostly just because I've been doing the same thing over and over and over and over for like 2 days. Alright, so like I said, dynamesh the sucker, Z-plugin, preprocess current, and we're going to reduce this. And I'm only doing this because I'm picky and I hate really high poly stuff. It is a personal pet peeve of mine. So, once again, we're going to overwrite that hell puffin temp file. We're going to go back into Maya, delete this again, and grab hell puffin temp again. So now we have the inside, the outside, the inside, and the original model. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just to keep myself organized, I'm going to call this outside and inside. I'm going to save my file, and I'm just going to call this OG match. Alright, which I just like to be at the top of the file for organization. It's a weird thing that I do now. Alright, so I renamed the wrong thing. Oops. I'm going to group that, and I'm going to call group inside. Alright. So, now what I need 2 versions of this because I am planning on making this into a candle, which probably is going to end up being a cut mold. So, there's 2 different places I could put my cut. I could put it down the center here, or I could put it here, or I could put it on the side here. I'm just going to put it down the center. I know it's, there's a little bit of an overhang, but I know for my purposes it's not going to cause an issue, and I like the seam to be symmetrical. It's sort of, I can kind of line it up with these scales and, like, this back stuff instead of just having it randomly go down the side. I don't know. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is look at the model from the correct side, which is indeed this side. And I'm going to draw where I want, because I don't want a cut mold that is 3 millimeters thick. That's going to be way too thin to line up. And I say that speaking from personal experience. So I'm going to go to my Create Polygon tool. And I am going to add in just a sort of arbitrary thickness. You can kind of decide whatever you want for this. I think I usually try to stay around 8 to 10 millimeters, give or take. A little thinner isn't going to hurt anything, but basically this is going to create an artificially thicker mold in the areas that I am cutting. So I'm going to grab these and just squish them flat, and squish these flat. And then what I'm going to do is take this, and I'm going to extrude the thickness I want one side of my mold. So I like to do 10 millimeters on each side, which means that I'm going to then take the middle piece again and extrude this. So this is basically going to be my fake flange thingy in the middle. And once I have that, I'm just, if you need to make adjustments, just go ahead and do that really quick, kind of whatever, la la la. So basically what this is going to give me is a 20 millimeter thick area that I can cut through. And like I said, I've just found that this personally works nicely for me, so that's what I've been doing. Okay, I'm gonna maybe extend this top just a tiny bit for funsy beans. Actually, I'm not gonna do that yet. Doesn't really matter. I'm being a little spazzy right now. Alright, so now that we have this is, like I said, going to be the inside piece of our mesh, so I'm just gonna parent a version of this under the inside, and then we're going to look only this other piece that I duplicated, and now we need to thicken this. And in Maya, if you extrude this and you push it out, it does not do well on 90-degree corners. So, workaround I have found for this is select both of these flat sides. Make it whatever thickness you want. Like I said, I like 2.4 millimeters for my printer. Grab the side pieces and extrude those again, and that will give you perfect extrusions out the side of exactly the thickness that you want. So go ahead and parent this under the outside. And then we're also going to just really quickly, because I'm a goober, we're going to look at the inside of this again and extrude this up and take the bottom and extrude this down. And the reason that I am doing this is so that when we cut out a hole, it actually cuts a hole in the top instead of just leaving it at the same height. Alright, so save this again. And then we're going to go in and we're going to add another version of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do create polygon again. And I'm just going to make another little sort of flangey thingy on the outside of this. That is where I'm going to clip my binder clips. And this is just how I hold my stuff together. Janky. Alright. And I am not being at all careful about thickness for this. I have found that the binder clips are honestly fairly forgiving. Alright, so now we have our weird little binder clippy areas, and I think I'm actually probably just going to come down and, like, cut the entire top of this off anyway, so I'm not being terribly careful if this lines up well at all. Okay. And just extend that down. Okay. Alright. So now that we have this, we're going to do the same thing I did before, except instead of being filled with silicone, we just need the thickness of this. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this 2.4, or like the thickness of my walls, and then extrude the side again. So that we have, once we cut this in half, 2.4 millimeters on each side. This is going to be on the outside. There's no corresponding piece on the inside. Alright, so there is another thing that I often do with molds, and that is make a little thingamadoodle that I can line up with the bottom of my mesh that will basically lock this in place in the mold. And in this case, I think I'm actually going to redo this a little bit. I found if it's round, it's not a super useful indicator of much of anything. So what I'm going to do is just sort of merge some random vertices to make this a little bit faceted, not being particularly careful about how this, you know, looks or the spacing of these. I really am just going for random faceting that I can line up with my molds after the fact. Alright, so that's probably good. It doesn't matter if these sides are symmetrical in the least. I'm going to go ahead and the only reason I deleted the rest of it is because I didn't need to do that twice. Okay, so I'm going to extrude this, and I'm going to do negative. I want this to be 3 millimeters thick, because that's just sort of how I like doing stuff. I'm going to go ahead and mesh display reverse this to make sure that the normals are the correct way out. And I am going to duplicate this piece, and just temporarily hide this. And what I'm going to do is extrude. I usually do about 1 millimeter on each side, and then delete the rest. And what this is going to do is give me a delightful little ring that basically perfectly borders this piece in here, just to give a little tolerance when I line stuff up, because my printers aren't super precise, or, you know, if I do something weird, it, you know, everything's gonna line up all nice and snazzy-like. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this ring, and then I'm just gonna sort of extrude up a little bit more and make some kind of smaller area that will line up in here, and make sure you close off the top and bottom of this. And the reason that I'm sort of beveling this in is just so it doesn't trap silicone. That's really the only reason. There's nothing terribly fancy happening there. Alright, and I'm going to do a mesh fill hole, and this is going to be part of the inside. So I've already duplicated this, so I'm just actually going to hide the inside piece. And we need to do the little extrusion thingy again. So what I'm going to do is just grab these faces, boop, and extrude, once again, my 2.4 millimeter thickness, and select the inside stuff and delete it. And once again, I'm just going to go through and sort of close off these areas. In this case, I was a little bit sloppy when I was doing stuff, so I got to, oops, hello. So I got to jump through 1 or 2 more hoops. Ah, hello. Why the hell is symmetry turned on? Maybe there was a reason stuff was being weird, and it's definitely because there was symmetry. Anyway. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just mesh fill hole, edit mesh fill hole for this. Why is this filling? Oh, maybe, I'm actually not really sure why this happened. Because there's like definitely, it's probably, I mean, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and blame symmetry on this. Actually, I think what's happening here is there's a buttload of overlapping faces. Shoot. Crumble. See what happens if I start Shoot. Ah. What? Yeah, it seems like there's just random duplicated faces in here. What the hell? I love Maya so much. It's my favorite. Alright, so I'm just, I guess, gonna go through and just try to delete all of these, anywhere that it's, like, causing an obvious issue in my mesh. Bear with me. I could pause the video, but that would require extra mouse clicks, and I don't want to do that right now, so sorry. What the actual heck? Uncool. And now I have to go check my inner mesh to make sure that this isn't an issue with that, too. Rude. Alright. Okay. Well, this is fun. I think this is all of them, except that one. Or this one? Or this one? Or this one. Cool. That was fun. And that one, and that one, and that one. Alright. That was fun. So let's just go ahead and fill in these copious number of random holes I've just made in my mesh with some bridges. And as I was doing that, I was trying my bestest. Oops, hello. Shoot. Really? Okay, there we go. I just accidentally hid some faces. And I was trying my best to keep things so that they would be easily bridgeable. Because I'm lazy and I don't like rebridging stuff. So, alright, I'm gonna say that is close enough. We're gonna try doing a mesh fill hole. I was wondering why mesh fill hole wasn't working, because that usually works. Anyway, alright, so now we have this. Let's check our inside piece, because I'm pretty sure the same problem is gonna come up there, which is deeply annoying. So, in this case is what happens in live tutorials. Alright, yep, we got the same bloody issue. Alright, so I'm just gonna go through and start deleting meshes again. And again, I'm sorry I'm not pausing this. You can just scrub through until I'm doing something that isn't this same thing. Actually, I wonder if I can just... Yeah, nope, rude. Okay. Isn't this fun? By fun, I mean super annoying and really tedious. It'd be great if I didn't keep selecting the wrong pieces like an idiot. Not really sure what happened there, honestly. Maybe I like moved an extrude and then like merged it and then it attached the faces together. It's like, this is not an issue that I normally have while doing stuff, so I'm kind of intrigued. Not enough to figure out what I did, or it probably actually would have been faster to redo the pieces, but at some point I'm just being a stubborn little piece of trash, so. Womp. Alright. Good. I think I did all the bits. Alright, so let's start bridging stuff back together. Edit mesh and bridge. This piece is clearly gone screwy somehow. Alright, I think that's all the bits. If we smooth it, I missed some around here. Alright, so it looks fine. I'm gonna try a mesh fill hole again. Cool. Seem to fill the holes, so that's exciting. Alright, I'm gonna take this and, like I did for the other piece, just extrude that down so it cuts a hole in the bottom properly. Alright, well that was fun. I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Alright, so now I think I have all the pieces that I need, unless I'm, like, losing my mind, which, frankly, is entirely possible. So I'm gonna group these and call these pieces cut mold, and I'm gonna do another version of this, that is going to be my glove mold. So for the glove mold, I don't need, and I actively don't want, the additional, this piece in here. So what I'm gonna do is just delete the pieces for this and the outside piece. And the reason that I am not deleting this inside piece yet is because this will become my new clipping flange. So I'm going to fill the hole. Just since I have the profile drawn, it saves me having to redraw it again. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did for the other one, which is extrude it to the thickness of my walls of my mesh. Like I said, I like 2.4. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and That seems fine. The only other thing that I need to do to this piece in particular is add somewhere for me to pour the silicone in the top, because right now this is closed and that's just not gonna super work. So like I said, the process is exactly the same as what we've done before. That's, oh, right, I missed the X. Where I'm just, this is basically where my silicone flange thingy used to be, but is now not, because I don't need it anymore. Wahaha. Okay. I get really weird when making molds. Okay. So we have this. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this and just extrude the thickness again of the pieces that I want. And this one, I'm gonna come down and just sort of set whatever, you know, arbitrary height I decide to use for this. Honestly, I'm probably gonna come down and trim this later, so it's not gonna make a huge difference. Alright, so we have our outside piece, which I need to jump on the outside pieces, and the inside, which will go on the inside pieces. Alright. Alright, so let's actually start combining this nonsense Sola together. And that's going to be really questionable to print, but I don't care. Alright, so let's start combining this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this because I like having backups in case I mess something up. I'm going to come in and look at only my outside pieces. And why is this not in my outside pieces? Whoops. And this is why I like having backups of my stuff. So I'm just going to paste that in there because I realized I did not put the piece in the correct places. So I need 3 copies of this. Alright, so now that I, once again, have my outside pieces, I'm just going to confirm that these are all the ones that I should be looking at. And I'm just going to start mesh booleaning, unioning these together like a crazy person. Alright, and making sure to only select the outside pieces in this instance. Cool, so now we have the outside pieces of those. I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to union the inside pieces. Alright, delete history on that, show the inside and the outside, and now comes the quote-unquote fun part, where we're able to cut these apart from each other. Which should leave, you know, a hollow version of basically the inside and outside of our mesh. Now, what I'm also going to do for this, because clearly there's just like weird random squares clipping through this, which is not exactly what I would call ideal, I'm going to just make sure that I can see the base. Apparently it was there because I just forgot to scale stuff, or forgot to hide stuff. And I'm just going to make some little boxes that I can boolean off the top and bottom of this to cut it to the appropriate height. And I'll save these for my next one so that I can just reuse them and I don't need to like remake these 8,000 times. Alright, so I'm going to make a group of these and call these bool boxes. Alright, and I'm going to duplicate these and just hide a random copy of those somewhere. So I'm going to take the piece and I'm going to difference the top off and difference the bottom off, and now we should have something that is actually properly lined up with what I want it to be. It does look like I actually cut the bottom too short like a goober, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab these bottom vertices, drag them down a little bit, and we'll just kind of call that a day randomly. Okay, so now that we have this delightful little thing here, there's 2 more things that I want to do. One probably actually would have made more sense to do shortly ago, but whatever. I'm gonna make a cool. This is what it looks like when you forget to duplicate or forget to get rid of part of your mesh. But anywho, all right. So I'm gonna make 2 little cubey things that are basically just going to be small supports, and I'll just make these my same generic 2.4 millimeters thick. And what I'm gonna do is just attach these to the top of the box, so that there are some small little supports on either side of this that will hopefully prevent me from having this thing like tip over randomly while I am doing things. Because that's just annoying. I don't know, I've had that happen before. I'm like, I'm spilling the expensive goo everywhere is like pretty dang frustrating. I don't know. Anyway, alright, so just sort of line that up in a somewhat arbitrary fashion. We can go ahead and duplicate this. Ooh, boy. And scale this negative 0.69? Actually, you know what? I'm just going to freeze transformations on this and scale this negative 1. Be a little easier. Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and freeze transformations on this as well, and just take these two little spout doodles, make sure they're actually lined up properly with your mold, because I don't know what the heck direction that was attached on. Go ahead and union these. Cool. And now we have our delovely... Did I say delovely? What? Now we have our lovely mesh. I'm just gonna go ahead and scale these down. And this one's almost done. I'm just gonna run a quick mesh cleanup on this. And now we just need to cut it apart, because there's no way I'd be able to, like, jam my... Actually, this one maybe would fit, but I'm not gonna, like, jam my model up in here like a crazy person. So, what I'm gonna do is make another ginormous box thingy-madoodle. That is just a plane that I know will be centered in the middle of the model. Extrude that out to one side, duplicate and save a copy of that. Make 2 copies of this, and we're going to do a Boolean intersection. Going to give me half of the model, and then we're going to do a Boolean difference, which will give me the other half of the model without needing to duplicate a bunch of pieces and move stuff around. So run a mesh cleanup again, and then you are good to save each half of these files. So let me just do that really quickly. Hell, Puffin, glove, box, small, left. And I don't name these left or right in any particular order. I just sort of pick a side. It's just to differentiate the sides. Alright, so I'm going to group these and call these glove. Alright, so save your file, and I'll just show you the same exact thing again on the pieces for the cut mold, of which the process is exactly the same. There's just slightly... Actually, it's the same number of pieces, just different shape for the inside one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the outside bits, and we're going to Boolean union all of those little things together. This is going to give us our outside piece, and then once again do the exact same thing for the inside pieces. Good times, fun, and joy. The nice thing about this is you can at least kind of scale these up and get different versions for each size, which is nice. Okay. So now that we have the inside and the outside of this, we can go ahead and difference the inside out, which will give us, like I said, this nice version with this, I guess, alternatively shaped top. I could have made the top more efficient, like, I probably should, honestly, if I, like, if I don't need all of this space at the top, which I don't, because I'm not going to cut, there's no reason to cut all the way down. If I wanted to, I could actually make this flange, maybe I will. Maybe I'll do this to be a good person for once. You could make this flange significantly smaller on the top, because like I said, I'm not cutting down to the edge of the head or anything super crazy, so I mean this could get like way smaller since I'm not cutting here, and that would obviously save on silicone. So I'm just gonna do something like this and say that this is probably as far down as I need to cut or like be concerned with. So all right, now that we have this, I think, yeah, I should have saved a copy of them, but I'm a goober and I didn't, so I'm just gonna sort of redo those little oopsie. I'm gonna redo those little, like, arm stand things that I made just to prevent this thing from falling over, not paying any attention in the slightest to whether or not this thing will, be symmetrical, because I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to keep this from falling over. Symmetry is irrelevant! Ah! Okay. Make this 2 or however thick you want it. It doesn't super matter. Actually, you know, I'm gonna make it 3mm thick. I'm gonna live on the edge. Again, this one doesn't really matter if it's lined up correctly or anything, it just sort of exists to exist. And then I'm just going to multi-cut 2 lines down these, not being terribly careful with it, to be honest, and then I will just mesh, fill the holes on the side, Boolean this sucker together again. There's a reason I tear out my menu for this, because I use so much Booleaning! Okay. So, now that we have this, I'm gonna cut this in half again. Actually, before I do that, I'm just gonna, these don't need to be as freakishly huge now that I moved that in. Alright, so I'm gonna cut this sucker, actually, I'm gonna use my bool boxes, and I'm going to, trim this down to size, with the caveat that since I added these later, I'm gonna have to just physically shift that down, and I'm not gonna cut the top off of this one. But I will cut the bottom off the same way I did before, so huzzah, death to the bottom of this. Gonna grab these little verts over here. The nice thing about this is, by just cutting the top and bottom off, you can be really sloppy with, like, the heights of stuff, and it, like, doesn't really matter. And I like being sloppy because I'm lazy, gosh darn it. Alright, so like I said, go back, we're gonna cut this in half, just make a ginormous plane, or set this up however you want. Once again, I'm like, why are these so big? This is unnecessary, so we're gonna go ahead and just shorten that a little bit. Anyway, so come back, and like I said, this is, since we've made everything on this plane, it bifurcates perfectly, so I'm just gonna go ahead and extrude this. Huzzah! Once again, I like just having a piece of my mesh, you know, saved. So I'm gonna duplicate. Once again, do the intersection. Interesting. Okay. I think that just didn't work properly. Which, yeah, so there's something is wrong with my mesh, which tells me that I probably maybe need to run a mesh cleanup on this before doing this, and then we're gonna duplicate these again since I just used or got rid of one. Okay, that's not working. Let's try normal. Cannot perform Boolean operation. Amazing. Okay. Let's try, and this happens every once in a while, especially if you're going, like, super nuts with the Booleaning. Alright, maybe it's because I did something weird with the top, so I think I am actually going to bring back the bool boxes. I'm just gonna duplicate this one again, because I'm spaz. Alright, I duplicate so much stuff, and at this point, I've just given up on naming stuff. Like, I know I'm probably never gonna revisit these files. All I really need if I need to scale this is the pieces, so that's all I'm really paying attention to. Alright, so let's just shim, like, barely the top off of this. Yeah, okay, that's definitely my problem zone there. Alright, so if I fuck something up and I need to fix something, usually what I do is I'll take, and I'm going to override help Puffin temp again. And this time I'm going to go into 3D Builder, and the reason that I'm going into 3D Builder is because it moves your mesh and it triangulates the whole damn thing, which is the worst. But it does a better job. Like, it doesn't need to redo all of the it doesn't redo all the topology, which means if you have hard lines and stuff, it's not gonna, like, mess with your hard lines. So let's just run a repair on this. Apparently that took half a second. And hopefully if I scaled anything stupid here, it's gonna, like, fix all of that crap for me. Yeah, it's gonna yell at you about saving stuff, just, like, make sure it saves. So I'm not gonna delete this mesh, because I don't know. I have, like, 70 versions of this in here right now. Sometimes I get super messy. Alright, so drag this sucker in. And this is also another reason I didn't save it, because like I said, it will move your mesh, which is the worst feature I have ever seen in a 3D program. And I say that somewhat literally. Like, oftentimes I will exaggerate. It's a very bad, like, why would you automatically move a mesh that someone probably positioned very specifically, like I did, to be on the origin? But anyway. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate this and try the intersection again, and I can tell that this worked because I can see the little green line in here. If I go into wireframe, it's there. So clearly there was just some bizarre mesh error, probably some overlapping faces that the Boolean did not like, that I was then able to get rid of. So, huzzah! This is now done, and we can save these pieces again, and once again, I usually, when I pour my stuff, just, like, pour all over the model. I'll do a slow coat, it'll let it cure really slowly, and then it'll degas itself, and there's, like, pretty much bubble-free, so that has been my 33-minute video on making molds. Hopefully it was helpful to someone. Sorry if I sound like a crazy person. I feel like one. Have a great day.